Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to have a look at the Warpsmith, certainly a buff character in this codex, and I'll discuss how he sort of works in terms of your army. So how this sort of works is I have a look at the unit itself you find in the codex, looking at stats, war gear options and special abilities that are applicable. Then I go on to have a look at suggested loadouts I would use, artifacts of chaos if applicable, legion traits, warlord traits, psychic abilities and stratagems that may come of use. So with that, let's have a look at the Warpsmith. So Warpsmith has a movement of 6, which is pretty standard if you're non-Terminator armour. Weapon skill 3+, so where most characters, I believe nearly every single other character is hit on a 2+ in combat, he's hit on a 3+. Reason for that is that he has a ballistic skill of 2, so obviously geared a little bit more towards shooting if you want to do the damage with him yourself. Strength and toughness 4, again standard for Marine. Wounds 4, which is, yep, I think pretty standard for most, except for the higher characters such as Chaos Lords. But things like Dark Apostle and Exalted Champion, very similar. 3 attacks, which is a bit on the low end for an HQ, but again, this guy is gearing towards more sort of ranged and probably backfield. So yeah, 3 attacks. Leadership 9, again, you're not Abaddon, so you know, Leadership 9's okay. And a 2+ save, which is interesting on a unit that doesn't have Terminator armour on. Not many characters do say that, so that's kind of cool to have that bit more survivability. A Warpsmith is armed with Power Axe, Mechandrills, yep, I might pronounce that wrong, a Melter Gun, Flamer, Bolt Pistol and Frag and Crack Grenades, so quite a lot of war gear on him there as well. I won't go into the Bolt Pistol, Flamer and Melter Gun because hopefully you guys will know what they do by now. They do quite a bit of different damage. I'll talk the Melter Gun and Flamer I'll probably talk about in a bit more detail, but I will talk about the Mechandrills because it's pretty much a Warpsmith exclusive item. It's a melee weapon, strength user, so strength 4, 0 AP and 1 damage. Special ability, each time the bearer fights it can make 2 additional attacks with this weapon. So this essentially brings him up to 5 attacks, but they are just basics of swiping at units around them. Maybe a bit of a threat on low armour, sort of low toughness units. Might kill 1 or 2 of them, but again, you're getting 2 attacks for free, so don't expect miracles from that. Does have a Power Axe, which is melee, +1 strength, bringing him to strength 5, -2 AP, so getting through a bit of armour, but only 1 damage. That'll be with the 3 attacks that he does have in combat. So yeah, you can replace the Bolt Pistol with a combi weapon or another pistol in the sort of range of weapons that you have an option for. I'll talk about that in my loadouts, which I think is more preferable. Special abilities, we have Death to the False Emperor. Not going to go into it, but basically if you're fighting Imperials you might get more attacks when you hit on 6s. Anything else, Xenos, other Chaos, not so much. Except for if you're fighting Cypher, because I think he's got the Imperium keyword. Master of Mechanism. Master of Mechanism. At the end of your movement phase, a Warpsmith can repair a single friendly Legion vehicle, other than models that can fly, within 1 inch. That model regains D3 lost wounds. A Warpsmith can instead curse a single enemy vehicle within 18 inches. Roll a d6 on a 2+, the vehicle suffers a mortal wound. A vehicle cannot be repaired or cursed by more than 1 Warpsmith in that same turn. So that is the sort of main function of a Warpsmith you will find, is that you want to keep him in the back line and keep your sort of artillery going, whether it be Forge Fiends or Predators or Chaos Vindicators. You know, say they've just gone down a bit of efficiency, you know, maybe by 1 wound, then this guy will keep them firing that wee bit longer and maybe a bit more accurate, which is very, very handy to have. So yeah, that's kind of what you get from the Warpsmith in the Codex. Here I'm going to go and talk to you a wee bit about sort of the loadouts I'd suggest and the various other tactics for it. So full disclosure on this, the Warpsmith was a really tricky one to write. Mainly because the options for him as sort of a ranged buff unit, you know, that's winning in the backfield. So many of the Warlord traits, Legion rules, stratagems, sort of favour combat in a lot of ways. Funny that for Chaos, but I've still read a bit about it, and I'll let you hear. So, loadout and suggestions. My first loadout, and my only loadout, is kinda stock, don't want the bolt pistol. Warpsmith with a power axe, mech and drills, melter gun, flamer, combi weapon of your choice, frag and crack grenades. So we kind of know that the Warpsmith's main deal is to, you know, not cause damage himself as such. But a few extra points you can add in a little bit of firepower, or keep him cheap, depending on what you prefer. As a bit more of a battlefield role, you've got an option of, say, you know, the combi weapon. I think you can take a combi flamer, in which case you overwatch with 2d6 flaming, which can be quite nice as a deterrent to some of your opponents. Equally, you can choose to go a combi melter, in which case you've essentially got, you know, almost 2 melter guns firing there as well. So if your opponent comes in with a character or a vehicle that has a large amount of wounds, 2 melter guns when you're hitting on 2+ might scare them a wee bit or give them a wee bit of a shock, because basically you might act as a bit of a sniper on that one. So yeah, that's the kind of loadout I'd go with then. You only really have the option of adding in pistol or combi weapons. I'd go combi weapons, either flamer or melter gun, for 2 very different roles, or keep them cheap. It's really up to you on that one. But that is what you'd get in a loadout of a Warpsmith. Artifacts of Chaos. Kind of struggling with this one. Eye of Night, Black Legion model only. The bearer can unleash the power of the Eye of Night once per battle in the shooting phase instead of firing any other weapons. When they do so, select a visible vehicle unit and roll a d6. On a 2+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. The Warpsmith is a ranged, you know, he's a ranged weapon sort of specialist, that's what he prefers, but most of these weapons are kind of short ranged. So you might not cause much damage in, say, like the first turn, but you can choose to then in the first turn go, alright, okay, that vehicle there, 2+, so it means it's not 100% reliable for a relic, take d3 mortal wounds. Maybe it might be within 18 inches, and then you can also do the curse on the machine, so you'd cause a further mortal wound. Chance to throw out straight away 4 mortal wounds if you roll pretty well. For a relic, there's other ones that would be more useful on other characters, kind of tricky on that side. Another relic that might go quite well though is Flesh Metal Exoskeleton. Iron Warrior models only. The bearer of the Flesh Metal Exoskeleton has a save characteristic of 2+. In addition, this model heals 1 wound at the start of each of your turns. So you already get 2+ save. So you're not getting the help from that. But you are getting the ability to heal yourself a wee bit in case you do take damage, and which that means in turn, if you survive an extra turn, you can then continue to heal your vehicles around you, say there's snipers after you, etc. Getting that wound back just means you might be in the game a little bit longer, and you can keep healing your vehicles, which can help quite a lot. Yep, the last one I'd say, you know, because I'm 90% sure you can do this, if for instance you decide to be towards Khorne, you can take the Axe of Blind Fury, because you know what, this guy has a power axe, this replaces a power axe. You're not that great in combat, but you know what, sometimes just do it because you can. So, Axe of Blind Fury, core model with power axe only. The Axe of Blind Fury replaces the bearer's power axe and has the following profile. Melee, strength 3, -3 AP and D3 damage. Hugely better than the power axe you've got. So that sounds a lot of fun. Abilities, you cannot reroll or modify hit rolls of 1 for attacks made with the Axe of Blind Fury. Instead, these attacks automatically hit a friendly unit within 1 inch. Randomly determine which unit is hit. If there's more than one, you randomly select. If there are no friendly units within 1 inch, the hit is ignored. So I say that you can do that because it's a lot of fun, but just keep in mind that for you to repair vehicles you need to be within 1 inch. So say you roll triple 1 to hit, you're going to be putting 3 attacks onto potentially a vehicle you're trying to heal, and if you begin causing damage on them you're going to instantly regret that. But hey, if you're going corn and you decide to really like Warpsmiths, why not? You know, it means you're also quite good as a backfield defender. Say if they have any scouts or things that move into your lines, he can help fight them off a little bit better, though with 3 attacks, maybe not so much. Legion traits, we're going to go with Iron Warriors Siege Lords. Enemy units attacked by units with this trait do not gain any bonus to their saving throws for being in cover. In addition, you can reroll failed wound rolls for units with this trait when they target a building. Hey, you know, Iron Warriors, they really like Warpsmiths, kind of their thing. And considering this guy has a lot of ranged capabilities and Flamers no longer sort of ignore cover automatically, you know, this just helps that if you are going to be using a lot more ranged, he can cause more damage by hopefully ignoring cover. One thing I would say is that as a backfield unit, it does mean that if you are firing at stuff, they're probably coming towards you and not concentrating on cover so much. So again, not a great one to really synergize well. I'd probably say it'd be handy if you're fighting against Admech, because they've got an ability Shroud Slam, and I think a few other armies do. I just know Admech pretty well, and denying their cover is a real pain, because the whole army getting cover is a great advantage when you can do it just out in the open for an ability. So being able to ignore their cover is kind of good, especially when you have potentially either 2 Flamers or 2 Meltas. Can make that quite ideal if there is units coming towards you. Warlord trait, again, I wouldn't recommend Warpsmith as a Warlord. There is one situation where I think it might be kind of handy, which I'll tell you about. So, because, I mean, we've got Demon Princes, they make great Warlords. So, Unholy Fortitude, add 1 to the wound characteristic of your Warlord. In addition, roll a dice each time your Warlord loses a wound. On a roll of 6, your Warlord shrugs off the damage and does not lose a wound. So again, this is about sort of keeping your Warpsmith alive. The longer they stay in the game, the longer that your artillery or backfield vehicles, or vehicles that's running along with, have a chance to survive. Yeah, okay, it brings you up to I think 5 wounds, and ignore those wounds and 6s. Yeah, kind of handy. The main point is if you want to keep them alive and help your other vehicles, this Warlord trait can help. However, one I do like, ironically, is Iron Warriors Cold and Bitter. Friendly Iron Warrior units within 6 inches of your Warlord automatically pass morale tests. So this is kind of sort of a bit useful. Cultists in large amounts work as a good screen if they don't run away, you know, they take a lot of damage, they might bolt. Plenty of bodies to get through before they reach sort of your artillery line, say you have Vindicators or Predators. Put 60 cultists, because they're quite cheap, out in front of them, make sure there's no way for your opponent to get around. And they're going to have to shift quite a lot of those cultists if you have the Warpsmith nearby, making sure none of them flee. So yeah, again, Iron Warrior's quite a handy one, mainly to just have as a screener units nearby. This Warlord trait could work well to make sure heavy hitting backfield units have a very good screen that won't run away. So yeah, as a Warlord trait, I think that one kind of works. Let me know what you think. Wordbearers, the voice of Logar, increase the range of your aura abilities on your Warlord's data sheet by 3 inches. Having a bigger aura to help heal those vehicles can help, and I think it will also boost the range of your curse if you want to cause mortal wounds on enemy vehicles. Brings it to about 21 inches, so gives you a bit more of that capabilities. Overall, I'm not going to say it's going to be too useful, because basically Warpsmith should be in range to move. It's got a 6-inch movement to get within an inch of most of your backfield vehicles and heal them if necessary. The 3-inch does help, but yeah, it just gives you a bit more option, that one. Not gonna lie, not as good as calls. Psychic abilities. Okay, Diabolic Strength, always handy for characters. Warp Charge 6, select a Heretic Stars model within 12 inches of the Psyker until the next psychic phase, add 2 to the model's strength and 1 to the model's attack characteristics. You have a low amount of attacks as it is, so getting a wee bit extra is handy. You will only reach Strength 7, so you don't get to that all-important Strength 8, which is kind of tricky. It means that, you know, if you've got like problematic scout units coming at you that may hold down your vehicles, it'll help you fight them off. But again, you know, if you've got, say, a Demon Prince hanging out on the wings, definitely a much better unit to get advantage of this one. But again, any character does get a bit of a benefit from Diabolic Strength. And then we've got Prescience, Warp Charge 7. Prescience has a Warp Charge value of 7. If manifested, select a Heretic Stars unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. You can add 1 to hit rolls made for this unit until the start of the next psychic phase. So in case you are stuck in combat and, like, you know, you've got the Warpsmith there, you Diabolic Strength him, you add Prescience, it means he's no longer hit on 3s, he's hit on 2s in combat, and you can activate Death to the False Emperor on 5+ if needed. Such a good ability, there's so many better units that can get an advantage of this psychic ability. But again, you might come to a situation where you need your Warpsmith to help out in combat, to fight off those units near your artillery. Buff him up a wee bit and he might help out there. He might not though. We'd have to see. So stratagems, now I do have some here that are probably a bit more use towards the Warpsmith. First one is going to be Veterans of the Long War. Cost 1 command point. Use a stratagem when a Heretic Stars infantry. Yep. Thought I'd check that one there. Or biker, clearly an infantry. Or biker unit is selected to attack in a shooting or fight phase, excluding units from renegade chapters. You can add 1 to all wound rolls made for the unit until the end of the phase. So you may think this is a bit of a weird one to choose for because it is universally seen as quite a good stratagem for its cost. But hear me out. Say your opponent has moved a vehicle into real danger area of your lines, or maybe even a character that's a bit tougher, and you've got 2 melta guns in there, and say they're within melta range. You have the chance then to fire both these melta guns at ballistic skill +2, and then if you use 1 command point, say as a vehicle, most of the time you're going to be wounding on 3s, this would mean you're wounding on 2s, and we know my penchant for rolling 2s, that 1 command point, that time you roll double 2 to wound, is going to seem like a really, really good move. Though, statistically speaking, you know, you could have just saved that command point and used the reroll in the shooting phase to reroll that, you know, 2 into a better roll. But generally, you know, being able to wound a bit more reliably here, because if the melta guns are in range, wounding and hitting on 2s, wounding in 2s, and then you're going to be rolling 2 dice, picking the highest in terms of damage. Could see the end of a Dreadnought quite well there, or a character if it's over toughness 4. So it can be quite helpful there. You know, generally, you know, it's a bit situational, and there may be other units that will see a bigger advantage there. But 2 melta guns being in range and you're hitting on 2+ may be quite helpful. So yeah, Veterans of the Long War, I'd say there is situations, if there's no more viable targets in the shooting phase, that might take advantage of this. Sure, this might end a unit when they thought they were going to be safe. Endless Cacophony, cost 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the end of your shooting phase. Select a Heretic Stars Slanesh infantry or biker unit. That unit can immediately shoot again. Similar to the above, basically if there's something big and nearby that needs to be melted and you didn't quite take it out the first time, then put those shots back in. I'm pretty sure you can actually stack Veterans from the first time you use it, as it says that, you know, it lasts to the end of the shooting phase or fight phase. We'll say for this instance the shooting phase. And this takes into effect just before the end of the phase, saying that they should mix together, means that when you shoot you're essentially firing 4 melta shots. It is rather costly because to do this you need to have, I think, you know, 3 command points, have good dice rolls, your opponent's got to have bad dice rolls, you know, they've got to have no inbuff saves for this to seem like a good option, and you've got to have a Warpsmith with Mark of Slanesh, which, you know, no Warpsmith I've really seen as Marcus Ganesh. But yeah, if everything comes into place where you get you know, Endless Cacophony off and also Bitches Long War, 4 melter shots, if you roll really well for the 2d6, pick the highest, potentially 24 wounds, which can cause a horrendous amount of damage. So yeah, that's where you may see sort of if you know, your opponent puts a big field unit down there, and with a lot of luck you can cause quite a bit of damage. One thing I would say is both of them are absolutely fantastic stratagems, and there may be better units to choose from. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of my conclusion for the Warpsmith. It's not an expensive character. I'd probably say if you are running Predators or things in the backline, think about having him there. He can keep them going for a while, but again, I've covered so many of the HQs now that I think there are a lot of really good solid choices in here. This one covers a niche that I think, you know, is not quite as good as, say, Admech when they heal, but that's because they have Warlord traits and relics that are designed for that sort of thing. He'll do okay, he won't win so many fights, but he might help you get that one round where you heal a wound onto a Predator and you need to hit loads, and he'll help. So there is the potential of that. So yeah, that is, I believe, we finally finished all the Chaos HQ choices. I'll be moving on to either Troops, Elites, Heavy Support, Fast Attack, Flyers or Dedicated Transports next. Let me know what you guys would like to see next. Let me know about what you think of Warpsmiths. I'm quite intrigued. I think I was quite harsh there. So I'm quite intrigued to think what you guys see, and obviously to help me and to help other viewers as well on what you think of the Warpsmith. But yeah, let me know what units, well, what types of units, because I'll probably cover all the troops and all the elites depending on what you tell me, or I might just start writing them when I fancy. But if you tell me universally you all want to see something, I'll try and move in that direction. So yeah, thanks again guys, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned some. Check us out on social media where we post up a bunch of stuff that we're working on, and check us out on Patreon because you can help us out, continue with the channel, and we do some extra stuff on there as well. So thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.